This is my
Yeah,
first. No, I
it's
was
your
going to
first
say
girl?
that I just realized the stream is live.
Yeah, yeah. No, I. Yeah. Hold on. Let's start up a snap. You guys driving home from?
Golf. But there was a little traffic. I cut it a little close, and then there was a little traffic, so that didn't help my situation.
Yeah. Cool. We could start. We could start. Um. Well, just for the viewing public, who is Saunders?
Well, that's a question that I've always struggled to answer. I mean, in public sphere, James Saunders is a sport anchor, musician, and former sport personality. Other than that, Jim Saunders is just a guy from Moruga, the first of 5 children, and just a guy that enjoys life and sport and God.
Okay. So did you participate in sports as a child?
Yeah, when I look at your story, and I see how multifaceted you are,
Mm.
a former track athlete, and then you play football at a high level. It kind of reminds me of growing up where I grew up in Moruga, where you were forced to play everything.
Yeah.
So I started off playing football. Football has been my main sport for many, many years. But I also ran track. Not July, August, but January, February, that period there, I was running track. And I was playing cricket. And then I was playing football. And then my mother was like, no, you need to focus on your schoolwork, choose one. So I stuck with football. And that has been my main sport for most of my life until now, where golf seems to have crept in.
Yeah, because I see you posting about the golf. Um, okay, what position you used to play in football?
I was a goalkeeper, one of those people that they used to send in the goal and have people like you shoot at me and try to score.
Hey, what's that? I couldn't be a goalkeeper, boy. When you see them bullet coming, no
Yeah.
way I put my handy.
And I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't my first choice position. I was a striker, started off as a
Okay.
striker. But back in those days, we had national team screenings. So
Yeah.
not like today where, from the different leagues you'd go around and pick. Back then you had to go screening. They'd invite you to screening and then you'd go screening. And I went as screening as a striker. And then I was seeing players who were stars in secondary school in the screening, in the striking position. I was like, whoa, this is going to be tough, boy. I was like, it's even, I could try and make this team goalkeeping. And that's how I ended up going in the goal and I made the team as a goalkeeper. So, that's how I started off in goal.
So you made it what your school team or was that national team?
That was a national trial. I mean, I made the
Okay.
training squad.
Okay.
That's as far as I got there. I mean, I played in the local professional league, but
Yeah.
back then I
As a
made the training
goalkeeper?
squad as a goalkeeper. Yeah,
What teams you played for?
I played with Arima Fire, Duxky Wallace. I had a little
Okay.
stint with Jablati. I played with Star Wars Strikers for a number of years. I was there and about.
And how did golf come into the picture now?
I guess being a sportsman, when you pass a certain age and your knees start screaming at you, like, hey, you can't be trying to play football every day of the week anymore. You
Yeah.
look for a new challenge. And
Yeah.
for me, it was always something that I was interested in. I was just curious, and
Okay.
it said curiosity killed the cat, but it didn't kill me. It just turned me into a golfaholic. So I was curious. I saw one of those beginner programs starting up, and I was like, hey, I've always wanted to try this. Let me give it a
Yeah.
try and see if I could do it well. And 2 years later, here I am with the hook in my mouth, all caught up.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about golf though. I know was he okay, so like when you swing it and you go in the water, what that is like 0 points. How that does go? If you get like straight putt,
It
was
means
he
that, well, the aim is not hit it to the water, firstly. I mean, water is one of the traps
yeah.
to get you from finding the holes. So, golf is, in a nutshell, golf is trying to get the ball into the hole with the least amount of strokes. And of course, there'll
Mm,
be various traps along the way. So, sand might be a trap, trees might be a trap, water might be
yeah.
a trap. I mean, I would know that because I've had to try and fetch it out of the water quite a number of times. Um, and so that is the aim of the game, to get it in the hole with the least amount of strokes. And as somebody who played cricket at one time in my life, you're like, oh yeah, how hard could it be to hit a golf ball?
Yeah.
Until you try it. When you have to find a ball this size and get
Yeah.
it in a hole this size, 500 yards away.
Yeah. All right. So I want to know, when did your love for sport coverage begin?
When I found out I wasn't good enough to be an athlete anymore. Well, it actually would have started, in secondary school. I did a lot of uh, oral writing. Thanks to my English teacher at the time, Miss Izora Edwards. She always encouraged us in oral arts and performances. And in fact, fun fact, when I was going to secondary school, one of the assignments we had was to imitate one of your favorite sport anchors, and Roger Sant being my
Mm,
sport anchor that I looked up to back in
yeah.
those days. I was Roger Sant in the broadcast, and I wish I could find that tape somewhere. Even the way that Roger would open his eyes big when he's making up points, that was me. So it was always something that I was fascinated by. And for those who would have played football during my era, I would tell you, we'd be going to games, and while we had the team bus going to games, I would be the one doing mock commentary and talking about, well, we're live here at the Manny Ramjan Stadium, and and just
Yeah.
doing that, annoying everybody. And even while playing FIFA, I would be that guy, doing the commentary while we played. So everybody was like, "You have to be a sports anchor. You have to be a sports
Yeah.
commentator." And even while I was playing football, I went to the newspaper office one day and told them, "Hey, I have a passion for writing and for doing this sort of stuff." And fortunately for me, they took me in as an intern, and that's where I started. So even while I was playing, I was writing articles. My teammates would
Yeah.
tell you that some of them benefited from some of the articles I would write back then. Marvin Phillip being one of them
Yeah.
back in the day, and one thing led to another. And from the time I got my first opportunity on it, it was just as if I was just doing another video game, or what I was doing all the time, which is talking about sports. And, that's where it really took off, and it started to outpace football. And I was like, you're kind of all right in football, but
Yeah.
you're better in this. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was an easy choice then.
Okay. That's cool. So how did Jason James, my bad, get into like TV6 News? How did that transition happen?
TV6 part of it.
Yeah.
TV6 would have started
Because that's where I know you from,
me going on to
right?
from TV6.
Yeah, that's
that
that's
mean
why I
that
know
mean I wasn't a
James.
good footballer at all. uh, TV6 would have started some years after I started, because after the newspaper, I started on radio, JB Thomas. Um, there was a gospel program called Perfect 10. And, I was a big fan of JB, and he was a good friend of mine as well. And he invited
Yeah.
me on to, on his program one day. And there was a
Yeah.
big sporting event. I think it was a World Cup qualifier. He was like, James, you're a footballer. You know about this. I don't know about sports. You're willing to say anything. And before I even, had time to think about it, he put me on air. And
Yeah.
I started talking about the World Cup qualifier and what was happening and breaking it down. And then somebody in marketing, they heard me and they was like, that guy that's with you right now, is he a broadcaster? And he was like, no, this is my friend James, he's a footballer. And they asked him if I was willing to come on and do sports 2 days a week. That's how I got onto radio. And while I was at radio, Joel Villafana, he was the head of the sport department, I think, there. And
Mm.
he would hear me on the radio station, doing sports. So when he got the opportunity to go across to TV6 as the head of sport, he was like, James, I want to bring you across with me. So I was on
Yeah.
radio Sunday night, and then Monday morning I started TV6.
Okay, that's nice. Um, so we know the media industry, it's so easy for people to get up in their head. How did you stay grounded, as a Christian whilst being in the public eye?
Well, firstly because I'm from Moruga. When you come from the country, you can't get bigger than yourself. But apart from that, I grew up in a big family and a Christian family to boot. So when you have
Yeah.
a lot of siblings, yeah, they're not gonna allow you to firstly like
True.
wait, who you,
You feel it.
yeah, who you feeling with? you, you're not someone that's playing in Model 3 from way back
Yeah.
when. So I would say my upbringing helped to keep me grounded. And then as a Christian as well too, the goal was never really to be famous. So I mean, yes, you want to be successful, but the goal was never to be
Yeah.
famous, but just to have an opportunity to meet people and interact with people and share the goodness of God with them, and have people experience God through you.
Yeah.
Because of that, to this day, I still don't see myself as the James Saunders that people see me as. Like I would be fascinated when people come up to me like, "Oh my God, James Saunders," and I'd be like me, like what did I do? And to this day, like I cannot see myself. I, I don't know what people see because
Yeah.
as far as I know, I'm just doing my job, and but thankfully God has allowed what I do to impact people in certain ways that they tend to appreciate you. Um, but thankfully, I'm happy that he's allowed me to remain who I am. If people would meet you, I went to school with to tell you you're the same person though, like
Yeah.
like they expect you to change into I don't know what,
Yeah.
yeah.
But so back to school and a little bit. Um, in terms of like when you're getting your report cards, teachers would write, this boy does talk too much, and were you one of those kids? You was one of them kids.
um actually the opposite,
Serious.
yeah, people who went to school with me would tell you that I was the guy that was slightly introverted. I was the guy that wasn't. I mean, yeah, I might have given a little mischief here and there,
Yeah.
but on the quiet side because I mean, when your aunt is runs the cafeteria in your school, when your other aunt is the school chaplain, and then when your mother is part of the PTA, there's only so much,
Correct.
so much wiggle room to to be
Correct.
anything. Yeah, and I grew up very introverted. I had to learn to be extroverted, and I wouldn't say that I'm naturally extroverted, but I had to have something that I had to learn to
Yeah.
speak and to speak up. I remember when I just started, the first time I heard my voice broadcast, oh my God, it called my blood. I was like, what am I listening to? To this day, I have to go to accept it.
Correct.
So I was a child that and maybe they would have to write James needs to speak a bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It
Interesting.
was it's still to this day sometimes a big marvel to my past schoolmates and teachers like, wow, we did
Yeah.
not see you here then.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Okay. So, having been on the side of interviewing, I want you to maybe just give your opinion on what separates like great athletes from legendary ones, in your opinion.
That's a great question. Um, great athletes, there are many great athletes. There are many people who are gifted and have tremendous talent. But I would say, the ones that are willing to make the bigger sacrifices, self-sacrifices, because in any stage of life, from what I've learned personally, there's a tax. There's a tax to everything. There's a
Yeah.
tax to being a school athlete. Maybe you would have to miss some times with your friends because you have training, hanging out with your friends after school and lining. There's a tax to being a national athlete. You from Tobago have to leave Tobago, move to
Correct.
Trinidad, or move to college in the US as well. So there's a tax that you have to pay, and for many people love or romanticize the idea of being great. But what they're not aware of is the tax that you have to pay. The ones that are willing to pay the bigger tax, I think, are the ones that are the most persistent, And persistence really is persevering even while the odds are against you. All the greatest athletes, when you hear them speak, they would talk about times when they almost gave up.
Yeah.
And, growing up, I would say that even with some of the players that went to national level, they were never always the best players. And I've seen players who were a lot better than some of
Yeah.
the athletes that would move to the top level. But the difference between them is that perseverance and that and the ones that were willing to pay the tax of being great.
Yeah. Back to sports anchoring though. How did you know, it was time to retire from, take a step back from that?
It's a good question. It's not that I've totally retired or stepped away from it,
Yeah.
um, but you always feel as a person, when you're getting close to your ceiling or when you're knocking on your ceiling, and for me, locally at TV6 in particular, I
Yeah.
always felt that, yeah, the
Yeah.
ceiling is right here, and I'm a person, I don't like to remain stuck. I'm a
Okay.
person that I don't like to be stagnated in any way. And, I just felt that the time was right when the moment came, and it just
Yeah.
coincided with my contract ending as well. I was like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
sign. This is the God is that you? you know, is
Like,
it that time? Is it that time now to move on, to move blindly,
spread your wings. Yeah.
yeah, to walk up the hill with my sacrifice, and and again pay a tax,
Correct. Yeah.
you know, you know, and it wasn't that time, and I just felt that that time was then.
Okay. What's something that people often don't see about life in sports media?
That the fact that it's a 24/7 job. To be good at it, you have to be involved in it and with it. The time away from family, there are no holidays. There
Yeah.
are no holidays. Like I hear people talking about long holidays. I'm like, what are those? Like, what do we even
So
have?
true.
There's always something going on.
Correct.
You know, at night time when a lot of people get to go home and hug up their children or their wife or whoever, you're still working at times. Yeah,
Correct.
there's no real switch off point or no cut off point. So it can be very demanding. Um, it is the tax of the profession. It is very time consuming. But it is a profession that could be very rewarding. You get to meet great people like yourself and
Oh.
some phenomenal people.
Yeah.
Some phenomenal people within the craft. I've been able to see even the growth. What I enjoy, one of the things that I enjoy most about it, you get to see the evolution of athletes.
Yeah.
I remember Michel Liahi in particular was one of the athletes I saw growing up. I remember doing Michel's first television interview, and Michel was the shyest person that you would meet. Michel couldn't even look at the camera without blushing. And then to see Michel Liahi going on to be a world beater. I remember
Yeah.
Richard Thompson before he went on to win Olympic silver. We did an interview. We sat down. We did an interview. He wasn't the big name that everybody was talking about. And then afterwards, to see him winning a silver medal, and you're like, yes, I feel as if I'm part of his story and his
Yeah.
journey. You get to tell the story of so many players, even uh, within your circle, to see people like um, Baby
Yeah,
and company,
Karen.
to see where they would
Yeah.
have started, to where, you feel part of people's story. And that's the part that I enjoy the most. Yeah.
Okay. So was music always around you growing up, or did the singing come later?
That's another good question, because I've seen a lot of people, like James Saunders retired to go and sing music. I'm like, no, I've been doing this like forever, ever, even.
Yeah.
I'll take you all the way back to secondary school, and my same English teacher, Miss Isora Edwards, poetry was a big thing, and fancied myself, a poet. I fancied myself a poet, and so I wrote a lot of poetry in school.
Yeah.
Of course, around that time, you're writing about love and you know, you're writing about the
Yeah.
girl that you like and all of those things. But
Yeah.
it evolved because it was something that we did back in school where we would beat the desk and sing and chant. And that was something that I was involved in. Um, while I was in secondary school, I was even part of the choir as well. I sang
Okay.
soprano. Looking back at that, and I was like, how did that happen? You know, soprano.
Soprano
But
is
that
that the
wasn't,
high or the low?
yeah, the high part where you're in front of the choir and
Papa.
you're rocking and you're singing that high. But that only happened until my voice broke, and then when my voice broke and I couldn't hold those notes
Ah,
anymore, I was
yeah.
like, well, you know, what happens now? So I
Correct.
started to turn my poems into raps, and I started rapping my poems. And I was like, okay, I don't have to hold any notes, and you know, because I have a baritone voice now. I'm no longer
Yeah.
soprano, you know. And so that's where it really started back in the school. And then the thing about it is that, of course, we grew up in the era of the likes of Bounty Killer and
Mm,
Buju Banton and all those guys. And you
yeah.
know, as a Christian, I kind of felt convicted at times by some
Yeah.
of the lyrics that I was singing because I was like, yo, I want to rap and I want to chant, but some of the lyrics, I really can't sing the lyrics now because I don't really believe in what the lyrics are purporting. And
Yeah.
that's where I started to, you know, put the gospel twist into it. I think it was around the time when I heard Shooting Gardner back in the time, and then
Mm-hmm.
Papa San and Stitchy. Don't judge me about my age, but there was a cassette that I bought, Lieutenant Stitchy cassette. And I was like,
Yeah.
yo, this is dancehall but gospel. So there is a
Yeah.
thing, you know, like dancehall but gospel. So I could sing dancehall and then, you
Yeah.
know, I'll be able to sing gospel and then mommy will be happy.
LOL.
And that's why I started, you know, writing gospel songs and, you know, asking to sing in church. And
Yeah.
that's where the music took off. So it was out of secondary school. Um, you know, so I was singing first. In fact, when I went to meet Jimmy Thomas at the radio station, it wasn't to do sports. I was interested in the musical side of things, you know. But
Okay.
when the media picked up, you know, it kind of took a back seat. It kind of took second
Yeah.
place, you know. And I think it was around 2019 is when I picked it back up again, you know, full throttle.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm gonna do something with this talent.
Yeah. Amen. Okay. So you spoke about having a big family. I think you said you guys are Christians, growing up in your Christian household. How did your personal relationship with Christ begin?
Well, I would say Christine Saunders has a big part to play with that because she
Yeah.
didn't play. I grew up in a family where, of course, my extended family as well. It's a Christian family, well known within the Moruga area, Placid family.
Okay.
You know, my aunt was a minister or is a minister. You know, so I grew up around that circle, a circle of Christian families. So that was part of it. And then mommy, of course, she made us, you know, every week we had
Yeah.
family Bible study and family devotion and all of that.
Yeah.
So even if I wanted to run away from it, I couldn't
Yeah.
get away from it. I mean, of course, when you're younger, you try to rebel against it because, oh gosh, you know, why have to go Bible
Correct.
study on a Wednesday? You know,
Yeah.
why can't I just, you know, miss services here? Because, you know, so I think, you know, my mother played a big part in that, and planting that seed within us.
Yeah.
And, you know, just as the Bible says, um, that when you train up a child in the way that they should go, when they get old, they won't depart in it. So even when you try to run away from it, it keeps drawing you back in because I think that seed was planted, you know, from an early age growing up.
Correct. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite scripture verse?
Galatians 5:13, by love serve one another. And
Okay.
it is one because you know, that was a banner that I had over my bed growing up. Galatians 5:13. I used to be really good at one time. I think I took that from my mother at memory verses. And I remember in a memory verse competition at VBS, I believe, that's
Yeah.
why I got the banner. I wanted something, and that always stuck with me, you know, and it
Yeah.
has become my life motto. Um, to love, to serve one another. Because, you know, as a believer, the gospel is all about love.
Yeah.
God loved us, and because He loves us, we get grace and salvation. And then, you know, by definition, we are to love one another. So it became my life mantra just because of that scripture verse. It always stuck with me, and from 19 along, it has been my favorite scripture verse.
Okay. Looking back on your journey, what is one thing or a few things that you're most grateful for?
It's a good question as well. What am I most grateful for? I think God's goodness, is something that
Okay.
I'm very grateful for. I mean, I have no reason to make it, so to speak, or to reach where I've reached. Um, I don't think I was the most, as I said, I was shy growing up. I don't think I was the most articulate. I came
Yeah.
from Moruga. I mean, like
LOL.
Moruga, back or quite as people would say back then.
Yeah.
I don't think I was most talented in anything. And I just saw the goodness of God in every step of my life, and I just feel as if, sometimes you feel as if you're predestined to do certain things and God just allows it. Like I can
Yeah.
have no ego in terms of where I have gotten to in my career and
Yeah.
the places I've been able to go, the people that I've been able to stand amongst, and I have no reason to have any ego about it because it was never me. I mean, um, when I got into the newspaper the first time, I was just walking into the newspaper office and saying, "Yeah, I want to be a journalist." I mean,
Okay.
apart from CXC, I didn't have anything apart from CXC. And I
Yeah.
mean, yes, while the editor did look at me as a crazy person, you know, she took me under her arms. She brought me in on an internship and started my journalism career there. When I started radio, I went, to meet Jamie Thomas,
Yeah.
and I got the opportunity to be on radio. And then from radio, I met Joel Villafana and got the opportunity to be on TV6. I always tell people, I don't think I've ever applied for a job in my life. it
Okay.
has
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
always been just the goodness of God.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always had to have, in several instances, blind faith in that I never knew how it was going to work out. I just had to
Yeah.
jump off the cliff and say, God, you catch me last time, right? You're waiting below this time again, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing I'm most grateful for. Um, where God has allowed me to reach, people that God has allowed me to influence, and places that He has allowed me to go. Sometimes I feel like as if it's undeserved.
I mean, that's the definition of grace, undeserved love.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. What's a message you'd want to leave for the next generation?
The message I'd like to leave for the next generation is, um, trust God as your source, and to never give up, despite whatever obstacles you face. I always like to talk about that story when Jesus was in the ship in the storm. And he was
Yeah.
sleeping, and the disciples were going across the water.
Yeah.
No, he was coming across the water. The disciples on the ship, and there was a storm, and then Jesus came walking on the water, and he told Peter, "Hey, come on, meet me now, Peter, out here."
Yeah.
And Peter watching around and saying, like, "You crazy or what?" Because Peter's goal was to get to where Jesus was, but I mean, the circumstances are wrong. It was stormy, it was windy, and who does
Yeah.
walk on water? You know what I
Correct.
mean? But
Correct.
he had to. The only way that he was able to do that was to keep his eyes focused on God, because you could tell people to never give up, but there's only so much that we can do within our own selves. And I think that the only way that we are able to withstand or see past some of these storms is if we keep our eyes on God and the promises of God. You know, there were times that I felt, rock bottom, and I felt that I really didn't know where to go. I was into a wall, and it's only because, of that faith, you know, like,
Yeah.
God, you promised me, or God, I know that you'll never leave me, that I was able to
Yeah.
push through. So I'll tell people to keep your eyes focused on God, and also, to never give up and be persistent. Be persistent.
Okay. Final question. What's the next chapter looking like for you?
Well, next chapter. I don't even think I've flipped that next chapter just I don't
Just
even think I've
enjoying
flipped
life.
that next chapter. I am enjoying life. And I felt,
Okay.
I feel as if it's another episode of past episodes in the sense of, I just have that blind faith,
Yeah,
that what is next in store, God is working out. And there are things that are working out behind the scenes.
of
And,
course. Yeah.
God continues to amaze in that regard. So I'm, to the best of my knowledge, I'm always going to be involved in sport. You
Yeah.
hear me more on the commentary aspect of things, doing live commentary, and regionally and maybe internationally as well. But you would see
Yeah.
a lot more music as well, and you would see another happy camper. Look out for me at golf tournaments as well. Look out for me
Yeah.
at golf tournaments as
Yeah.
well.
I saw you met is Brian Lara. Is he playing golf too? Mm, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
Lara is
That's
a
nice.
phenomenal golfer. Yeah, Russell Latapy plays golf. Dwight
Okay.
York plays golf. James Saunders is coming up behind them. And very soon
Right.
I'm sending out a challenge guide coming up, And maybe I could convince Asha James as well to
I ain't nobody
to
golf, but
come give us a shot.
you see it's not tennis where everybody play nowadays. I feel I could
Pickleball.
sweat a man out in that, yeah. I
Yeah,
feel
in
like I could,
pickleball, you could put
yeah.
in.
I feel like I could get a pickleball. That is
All
look
right, well, I will
intense to
hold you to
me.
that because might have a pickleball competition coming up as well. Well, not competition, but there's a golf buddy of ours, a school
Okay.
principal who has a whole pickleball arena he's doing. So I'm going to invite you as one
Uh-huh.
of my
Yeah.
guests to come and
Yeah.
play.
All right. That's looking good. All right.
but after
James
you,
is
but after you try that though, you
yeah.
have to come and
Golf.
yeah, you have to come and try it.
Woo.
Try it just
Boy,
once.
that song it like it's like a whole long day. Let me
It
see how you
should
pick a
be.
ball go first. But social battery just die fast.
I remember the first time I played golf, I was like, whoever said this was a lazy man sport has never played this before. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is some work.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how it goes for sure.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right. Well, James, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming and share your story on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for the chat as well. Thanks for having me. I'm a superstar being interviewed by a footballing superstar.
LOL. All right. See you later.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah.